Wow. We are live. See. Yes, that's done. Done with that. Then we could also do this. Okay. So we can start with the less fun stuff. Yeah. Big Gun Wish on pole position. Didn't get in his second gear, and his race was gone before the first corner. So that was fun. Surflers apparently DNF. But actually I didn't watch anything of this. When Began Wish had that problem, I mean, why would I want to watch that? So we skipped that. Nothing to talk about. Let's see. This is the sprint race. We need the race. And yeah, Borteleto did Began Wish that like he did in the sprint race. He crashed into one of the people that drove past him in the start because of the soft tires, and he had the hard tires, and then he got yeah, what you say? He got penalty, but he's somewhat succeeded to get a P5, so he got some points. But there's also nothing fun to watch when Borteleto had that start. Hey, points for Mayata and one of the Prima drivers succeed in get points apparently. That's fun. 16. Let's see less results. Okay. And did something fun happen in the Formula 1 to, Formula 2? I would say no. So we can go past that and we go to actually fun stuff. Max Verstappen somehow succeeded to win. Sir Perez P2. And then Ferraris 3 and 4. Leclerc had some interesting race. Every corner he couldn't brake or something. And George Russell, it looked like he could maybe lose his position to Lando Norris in the end, but that didn't happen. And this most beautiful ever, Lewis Hamilton P7. Sadly also Piastri, he could maybe have finished 7, but he got 8. Fernando Alonso looked like they ruined his point scoring, but he succeeded to get past Lance Stroll in the end and get 2 points. Lance Stroll had a bad beginning of the race. He had what Borteleto and Beganovic did to someone else happened to Lance Stroll, but he succeeded to come back and get 1 point at least. And Sugar was almost he almost got a point. But here is the fun thing. Or fun thing. I mean, I heard so much that, the qualifying, every car is so close to each other. And just look at this. 1 lap behind. This never happened last year. And everything, they are so close, so they are 1 lap behind. How can that be a definition being close? And also, what did Max Verstappen won with? Plus 22 seconds. Man, this must be really close. Yeah, sure. Yeah, but yeah, did something more happen? Logan Sargent did a bad break and then just went straight in a corner. Maybe the longest yellow flag. Williams had hot car problems. I think Russell also said he had some problem with the car. Leclerc had the problem with his brakes. I think the only one that had a car that was no problem with was Max Verstappen. Everyone else had some problems. So yes, so that's that. And now we will go to we'll start that. And then we can go we will be watching. Oh my god. Auto Motorsport. Are they called, I think? Wait. Oh. And we have Minecraft. Back to the fun stuff. And we will watching F1 2024 Bahrain GP review. The Rebel is in a different galaxy. Let's see.
Race 1 of 2024 has been completed and it was an untroubled race for Max Verstappen, who drove away from the competition leading a Red Bull 1-2 on the 20th edition of the Bahrain race. Behind him though, there was plenty of action and plenty of teething issues for a number of teams. But when it was all said and done, it was Carlos Sainz who joined Max and Sergio on the podium after an enthralling battle with his teammate. Well, I'm Bryn Lucas, and joining me to discuss all that we saw in Bahrain, over in Bahrain, is John Noble, and here back in the UK is Matt Q. First of all, welcome to you both. Let's kick things off, shall we, with Red Bull then, and maybe some of the things we all feared could have happened after testing came to fruition, really, with a very, very dominant performance, maybe arguably better than we were expecting if they'd stayed with the RB19, last year's car. What do you both make of the performance, not just from Max, but from Sergio as well? John, let's start with you out there in Bahrain.
I think Toto Wolff summed it up best tonight. We asked him about, what he made of it. It's just, they were quite optimistic. I spoke to Toto last night after qualifying. They were quite bullish about where they are. They said they'd wound down. The qualifying performance had focused better on the race, so it's all looked close. And then today...
Yeah, everything looked so close. Man, the copium.
He said Red Bull weren't in a different league, they're in a different galaxy. So, and I think that's the general feeling in the paddock. That RB20 is fantastic, same characteristics as last year. It may not have a massive advantage in qualifying over the rest of the field, but in terms of race pace, consistency, tyre degradation, Max Verstappen being completely at one in the car, it's a step above everything else. And I think you'd be quite a brave person tonight to be betting against Red Bull winning every race this year.
I think you've sort of hit the nail on the head there, John, haven't you?
Thanks,
just
Matt.
by sort of no worries. But when you're saying sort of about Verstappen being at one with the car, it's two sides of the story, because before the Ferrari brake issues, before Mercedes engine troubles, there were just a few times the camera would sort of cut, and you had Russell, the two Ferraris, and Perez in this really nice four-car train early on. You think, if you take away Verstappen, and this is it, this is brilliant. But the headlines are always generated by the winner. So Verstappen being dominant, exceptional performance from him in an exceptional car. But the stakes are always lower on those lesser battles. I think sort of bigger picture is probably what F1 didn't really want. Quite unspectacular race, just generically, for boosting audience numbers after shaky Drive to Survive figures and all that. But also, there's been a lot of distractions with the Christian Horner stuff and everything in the lead up to the season, so they could have probably done with a mega sort of Bahrain dual 2-3-way fight for the lead, a few more, bit more jeopardy, a few safety cars as a nice glossy distraction. But instead, we got sort of 2023 part 2.
På Amazon.se hittar du produkterna du älskar till priser du också kommer älska. Så att du kan få din värdegunga, inte dina besparingar. Den perfekta blandningen av kvalitet och pris. Med stjärnbetyg från kunder och strålande priser från oss.
I can skip that.
Well, looking at Max, I mean, what was it? I think when Sergio came in for his when the second pit stop happened, there was around about 5-second gap between them, and he finished 22 seconds ahead of his teammate. So we talk about Max and how scary he is there. I mean, it is like he's wearing the car, and he was born with that car, on his skin. It's unbelievably scary, his dominance. And as John, you're saying that you wouldn't write him off winning every single Grand Prix of 2024. Do you seriously think that could happen?
I think it could happen. I mean, I think a lot. They'll still come down to races where there's a bit of luck, and I think like last year, there were a few times where things could have gone wrong for Red Bull, like tiny elements of luck in the race, and they all went Max and Red Bull's way. You think of Monaco, for example, Fernando's pit stop. Chose the wrong tyre in a split second. Little events like that could happen. So I mean, it's still a tough task to do it. It's still a massive delivery to go for those 24 races. But the scale of the advantage I think that car has at the moment, it's hard to see rivals being able to close that up over the course of the season. I think they'll close the gap down, but there's little reason to feel that Ferrari are going to make the steps they need to get on terms with Max, Mercedes.
Wait, what did he say?
Terms with Max, Mercedes need to make a huge... There's little reason to feel that Ferrari are going to make the steps they need to get on terms with Max. Mercedes need to make a huge jump as well, so no one's resigned, no one says it's...
Why this big jump? It was so close. I mean, we all saw the qualifying, we all saw the practice too. Mercedes are not gone. What?
It's definitely a done deal, but I think the scale of the kind of the ease at which Max pulled it off today, he wasn't really pushing. I think we only saw a glimmer of the potential when he smashed that fastest lap on that final stint on the softs, clear of absolutely everybody. So just a different league. The key thing is if if Perez can run in clear air at the front and not wear his tyres a bit more in traffic and have to come through, what potential can he match on the kind of tracks and venues that favour him a little bit more? So hopefully we'll get some battles, because we don't want races where one driver's just clear in front and disappearing. We want at least a fight between teammates.
And let's stay with that then. Matt, Sergio Perez, how will he be looking back at his performance today? I mean, he finished second, so he climbed up a decent 3 positions to finish second, but will he be pleased with the fact he's got himself on the podium finishing second, or will he be disappointed by the gap between him and Max, albeit they both had very different jobs to do through the Grand Prix itself?
I think he'll be pleased on 2 fronts. Okay, you never want to finish behind your teammate, but he's overturned, a below expectation qualifying performance and, achieved a Red Bull 1-2. If he gets second place in every Grand Prix this season, there won't be, albeit he's out of contract at the end of the year, but there won't be questions about whether he deserves to be sacked midway through, because he's doing the expectation. So he's like passing the internal benchmark there. And I think sort of just both of their analysis, their reactions at the end of the race. Verstappen said everything's perfect, I'm at 1 with this car, better than expectations. And Perez actually had a couple of complaints about, sliding across all the different Pirelli compounds, that he had an engine braking issue. So he'll think, okay, Verstappen's 22 seconds ahead, but I've had to come from 5th in the grid and managing problems while he's had the perfect day. So maybe if there's a swing in my favour, actually I can be a lot closer than that to give sort of him something to worry about. So I reckon on those metrics he comes away sort of quite happy, if not elated, because obviously he's not a Grand Prix winner.
Mildly chipper, it might be, mildly chipper. What about somebody who I don't think will be particularly happy, and that's Charles Leclerc? He was disappointed yesterday in quali because he actually had a very strong qualifying time in Q2.
I think if the brakes wouldn't be that bad, he could have at least tried to get P2.
He actually had the best time of all in the entire sessions itself.
If not that, he will 100% get P3.
So he missed out on a pole position, then he had some issues in the race. John, what can you tell us that you understand has happened at Ferrari there?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of head scratching going on tonight. So, I mean, we saw Charles locking up quite early on in the race and kind of carried on, and the brake complaints kept coming through. It's basically different temperatures on either side of the car. I think there's a 50-degree temperature range across the two, which is basically means one side of the car is braking much more effectively than the other, so the car's pulling. I think it's something that I think Carlos Sainz had a brake problem on opening day of practice. So I don't know if it's the same or something different, but there's obviously something deep inside the Ferrari system somewhere that hasn't quite worked correctly. I'm sure they get to the bottom of it. Bahrain can be a bit of a unique track in terms of the kind of braking demands. And a lot of tricky corners where you need to be very, very confident on the brakes. So I think Charles will be disappointed. I think there was quite high hopes that potentially that pace he showed on Saturday and good long runs, they could have been in that fight there with Max. That hasn't happened at all. But I think they'll be slightly encouraged that Sainz didn't finish a mile behind Perez, and that if they can build forward from here, maybe there's a sniff of challenging for seconds.
Well, let's stay with Ferrari then. I mean, challenging for second always sounds, oh, there you go. It's a horrible prize, isn't it, challenging for second, but it's something they've got to go for. What about Carlos then, Matt? I mean, Carlos Sainz climbed up to third, finished third, got that final spot on the podium, overtook Leclerc twice in the race as well, which is a good marker to put down, albeit with Charles Leclerc having these problems.
Yeah, he was the main source of entertainment in the race for me. I think a bit like last year's Grand Prix, where so much of the sort of positive feeling towards that Grand Prix, I think, was based on Alonso's final stint where he came past Hamilton, and I think, was it Sainz to get on the podium? I think that was sort of Sainz's role this year. He had.
Man, that was the bad thing of the race. So you don't know if you finish P3
towards that Grand Prix, I think, was based on Alonso's final stint where he came past Hamilton, and I think, was it Sainz to get on the podium? I think that was sort of Sainz's role this year. He added that excitement, some robust moves on Leclerc, and hopefully, I really hope that's a taster of that narrative to come for the whole year, that I've got nothing to lose. Thanks a lot for Ferrari for packing my bags for me. So, no team player. I'm basically doing the best job I can to get the best possible seat I can. So I hope we see a lot of that from Sainz. But it does sort of mix in with with the other themes, isn't it? Sainz had a great drive, judged his overtaking well, did well in a sound Ferrari, but he was helped by Leclerc battling his own problems. The fact he was so close to Perez has his complaints. I know racing drivers' excuses, all of that. And also, was it lap 18 when he does that really nice round the outside of turn 4 move on George Russell? By which point the Mercedes is already having to sort of lift and coast because of it. The temperature spiking. Car. So while Sainz is like on track judgment in terms of like wheel to wheel placement of the car was stellar, you know, pretty much faultless. It's such a small sample size, isn't it, to say that a Ferrari is clear second or can really, you know, put Perez in his place when everyone is going home tonight with their individual complaints, apart from Max Verstappen and apart from maybe Carlos. Well, I suppose Carlos might say he had bent steering, didn't he, after knocking Perez into turn 1.
Staying with somebody who might have a bit of a vested interest, though, in Ferrari, and that is Lewis Hamilton. Now, he might be looking at what's going...
Nah, the race for Lewis Hamilton was beautiful. The future is bright. I mean, his race talk after trying to say the car is good.
On just over the fence at the moment, but he's probably focused firmly on what's going on in his own garage at the moment as well, because he gained 2 positions, George Russell dropped 2 positions, but they both the Mercedes had issues pretty early on, as you were hinting, John.
Yeah, it was a strange one. We've had 3 days of testing here and then 2 days of kind of practice qualifying, so you'd think teams would be quite on top with exactly all their settings, but for some reason the race today they basically started overheating. So whether it's a combination of kind of running in traffic, slightly warmer ambient temperatures, because the temperature's been a bit weird this weekend. Everyone's been wearing, as you can see, wearing jumpers and people in coats in the paddock. You wouldn't expect that normally in Bahrain. So I suspect they've got the cooling calculations slightly wrong for the demands today. So they're overheating. That means lift and coast, backing things off, getting in clear air. So basically derailed their race. They were losing about half a second per lap was Toto's estimate.
Beautiful.
So it's something that's quite easily solved for the next race. Nothing, you know, not an inherent problem with the car. You just get your
No, Copium, surely not something bad with the car. They just sandbagging like Alpine.
calculations better for Saudi, but I think they'll feel slightly disappointed with that, but obviously give some encouragement that there is more pace and more potential in that car.
Yeah, like
sure.
John said, it's a mistake rather than the whole season's written off already, but it's a mistake that no other team made. No other team, apart from I suppose Williams, who had a similar powertrain cooling issue with the Mercedes engine, struggled with, and it's not a mistake sort of befitting of an 8-time constructors champion, is it? Getting your calculations wrong.
The fuck is Ferrari, and what do people say about Ferrari?
It does feel a bit lame. I know it's a bit poor excuse. Quite entertaining that they've gone from 0 pods to conventional side pods for this year, and these are the ones that overheat. But that's by the by. But yeah, I suppose they want to obviously nip it in the bud straight away. Go to Saudi, similar region, similar climate, and not get it wrong. Yeah, so it's pretty like, I don't know. It just seems pretty poor overall, but it was like a fine race for Mercedes up until that point. I'd say it's vanilla, isn't it? That was a vanilla ice cream, and other future races they'll want at least a few sprinkles or something on top. It's a platform to build on.
Snö.
A platform to build on what?
Nysnö.
The bad car?
Skar, frost och flister. Drivsnö. Yrsnö.
Skip that.
No.
Matt's got a new food-based show coming out very soon, so watch this space. McLaren are just up the road from where I am, in fact, and they had another beige one, I suppose, as well, another vanilla one from them, I suppose you could really call it, because Lando gains a place, Oscar stays where he is. What do we think we learnt from them today, John?
Yeah, I think you've got this interesting dynamic in Formula 1 at the moment. We've obviously got Verstappen, I think, clear in front of you, just that car just suits him and everything's nailed. Perez is probably second, and then you've got this fascinating kind of Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren potentially Aston Martin, but we're not sure if they're in no man's land or a part of that gap. But there's such tiny margins between them, so you've got to basically choose.
Yes, tiny. Yes. Two.
Are you going to go for qualifying setup to get grid position, or are you going to go race setup, maybe sacrifice your qualifying position, then you're kind of dumped into traffic. So I think there's a lot of head scratching going on at team trying to work out what's the best approach. I think McLaren didn't do as well as they should have done in qualifying yesterday. Potentially could have been up there much nearer the front, and I think if you can run near the front, then the pace is so much so even between the teams that you can probably maintain where you start as long as that basic consistency and the degradation is good. So I think they suffered from yesterday, and I think very, very difficult to come back because there isn't a huge delta between the teams. Everyone was pretty much on the same strategy today because the medium tyre was a useless race tyre. So you start on the soft and then it's pretty much two hards apart from Red Bull. So no strategy variation, not much variation between the cars, which I think is why today was quite boring because you don't have that kind of offset of pace between teams. So they'll go away, they'll rethink, they'll work out where do we need to
Red Bull had a big offspring. The other behind them, and Aston Martin had a big difference. And between Aston Martin and the other teams was a big difference. So it was not a big difference. What do you mean?
Target to qualify, and where's the best position to start that we can deliver the best result?
I think they call it processional, don't they, rather than boring. I think boring is the banned word when it comes to a broadcast side of things. But we'll paper over that one. We're going to keep that in, obviously. Of course we are. But Matt, let's talk about one other team, the team that rounded out the top 10, and that is Aston Martin. John just mentioned there, and Alonso fell backwards a bit. Stroll had a spin and managed to climb up a bit from the spin itself. So on paper you think, it actually wasn't so bad. But I'm not sure how happy they'll be with the fact they walk away with 9th and 10th.
Yeah, to sort of pick up from what John said, I think, as we've sort of said throughout pre-season testing and speaking to team sort of tech personnel, this will be a season where, cars will fall out of their very narrow operating windows. There will be swings in performance. So potentially Aston Martin has just had a slightly off weekend, but compared to them being that uber success story at the start of last season, this will feel like a disappointment. And okay, they got lost basically with their upgrade stream throughout last year, but they were taking parts that they'd discovered for the 2024 car and reverse engineering to fit the AMR 23, and they fell off course. But they sort of arrested that, they turned it around, and they were satisfied with where they ended the year, strong drives Brazil thereafter. So I think you'd be more wanting them to pick up from that, whereas this does feel like they have regressed. And okay, in that order, compared to 2 years ago, you've not got Alpine in there quite up, they're right down at the bottom, and compared to at the start of last year, you've now had to make room for McLaren. So it's not a catastrophe. It's just that someone else is slotted in above them. But yeah, Alonso was on the podium here last year. He was on the podium at the next race again, in Saudi Arabia this time last year. So this will be like an anonymous 9th, 10th will be disappointing for him. But on the flip side is that, if Alonso's not making headlines with his on-track performances, I'm sure he'll come up with some good things to say to make sure he's still getting every inch of sort of real estate in newspapers, magazines, on our website. So I look forward to what he has to say next about it being the greatest ever drive for 9th place.
As John gives a little laugh as well to that point. But John, as you're out there, talk us through what you think about DRS. The rules changed this season where DRS comes in after one lap. Did it work? I think it worked for Max, didn't it? But did it work for everyone else? What's the general consensus?
It's quite interesting because Max basically, when the guys died, Vettel was the classic of this, that knew what the DRS advantage he needed to get to break it and had 2 laps to do it and would often do it. So I think now you can have quite frantic first laps for the leader to try to break clear. I think today wasn't a good judge. It's a difficult kind of race because it's Bahrain's a unique track surface, very rough, high degradation, it's hot. Cars can't particularly follow very well here because you tyres start overheating. So I think all those factors were what delivered a quite processional race because there was none of that kind of tyre offset. Processional, not boring. Is that all right? So I think it's too early to judge on that. But I think potentially it could be more interesting having this DRS available after the first lap, because I think it'll stop leaders breaking away and will keep the pack closer. And the key thing potentially is if Ferrari can
keep it closer. But like, did he really
keep
say
the
that?
pack closer.
Like,
is that all right? So I think it's too early to judge on that, but I think potentially it could be more interesting having this DRS available after the first lap, because I think it'll stop leaders breaking away and will keep the pack closer. And the key.
Okay, so that was the meaning. The DRS. I mean, I would say the DRS train start earlier. How, if that's good, who knows? But it can be a really boring start also.
Thing potentially is if Ferrari can, find a bit of pace to qualify at the front, get Max, back into the pack, then potentially might have.
And then he gets DRS after the first lap, and then got past him just super easily.
Bit more of a race on our hands, because I think Max in that car, if he's free coming out of turn 1, then see you later.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to disagree, but Matt, I'll give you the opportunity.
No. I mean, it was a bad test today because you didn't have a safety car to shake things up. I was sort of at the back of my head, there was perhaps a small thought that, part of Verstappen's crushing success is basically he never like shocks the Pirellis, does he? He always leans into them, sort of gradually builds them up, and then really sort of reaps the rewards at the end of the stint. So I was hoping that by bringing DRS forward, he's got to absolutely nail it on the first lap, tear chunks out of them, and then he'll really be made to pay later on. But that didn't quite happen. So yes,
Nope.
to be seen. I think how it evolves with some good safety cars, a bit more jeopardy.
TBC ... And that's where we'll end this
Why do
episode.
you need safety car? The qualifying was so close. That means the car's also so close. Everyone can win. What do you mean?
So thank you very much, gents, to John
No
over there
safety
in
car
Bahrain, to
needed.
Matt as well, from his home here in the UK, where
British
nobody
bias.
knows. We'll be back next time for Saudi Arabia. Not much of a break for the rest of the teams. They'll be heading off for a short hop, really, across the border for the next race next weekend. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can stay across all of the coverage. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, that was Autosport. Right? Yes, Autosport. Then we click that. And then we will... Yeah, we need soon one more chassis. We can place these items here, but we should go to next fun video. Oh my god, oh shit. The funniest one. Let's see, is that right? Yes, okay. The funniest tweets from 2024 Bahrain Grand Prix. And from my opinion and everything I've seen from these people, the P1, this is usually really bad. But let's see if they finally made some funny tweets, or they picked some funny tweets.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the funniest tweets.
No.
The 2024 Formula 1 season
that's funny.
is finally here. We've had our first race, and what a thrilling Grand
Yes,
Prix we had.
It was.
All the way to the last lap between Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo. Oh, did you think I meant for the lead? No, of course not.
The lead was more fun, I would say, than Yuki Tsunoda and Ricciardo. I mean, nothing happened there. The lead was more interesting because you never knew when they actually will film him. Like, he was a ghost. You could never see him.
Max Verstappen crushed all of our dreams, hopes, and very much woke us up from our delusion, did
Yeah,
he not?
your
But
copium.
we've got great
Mercedes is
tweets.
back now, they are
We're
not.
Formula One fans. We'll be there no
They are
matter what,
gone.
week in, week out. And,
It's over for them.
you know, we'll try and just support each other through this difficult time. Max domination. Right, let's. I mean, we had to have this, didn't we? We had to speak about it because memes were made to talk about Max Verstappen and his domination. Max gave us a bit of hope as well. He doesn't usually sort of bait us into thinking that teams might be closer than what is predicted. I think there was a little bit of chatter around Russell saying half a second a lap is what he predicted. Max would be quicker than everybody else. And Max sort of said, oh no, I don't think it's that big. And that kind of stuff, you know, so you go, okay, maybe it's a couple of tenths. At Moofy17, me when Max is 10 seconds up the road, 10 laps in. It
nice.
felt Mercedes domination era, didn't it? With the pace differential between Max in that Red Bull and everybody else. The problem that we had, well, I guess the saving grace actually that we had with the Merc domination was that sometimes Bottas, Rosberg would win. Max Verstappen in a Red Bull might pick up the odd win. Hamilton, you know, might have a day off.
Okay, this is one of the funny tweets, right? Surely.
We'd get something crazy happening. Max Verstappen does not have days off ever. That man never switches off. And fair play. Like, he can keep up his momentum and his motivation to this level. He's already on 8 wins consecutively. Yep, you thought it stopped last year? No, he's on 8 wins, 3 more wins,
continue.
and he breaks his own record for consecutive wins. At Navarro, me after seeing Max creating a 1 second gap in 1 lap. It was a harsh reality, wasn't it? We did all kind of pray, hope, that maybe it would be closer. Formula One's in a bit of trouble, I think, not just purely on the Max Verstappen front. That's not ideal. But when we have great action behind, it gives us something to watch, doesn't it? And we thought at one point the battle for second was going to be great. You know, you had 4 drivers in there, all fighting away, but not really fighting away, just in a train. And there wasn't much actual entertainment throughout the race.
It's like Formula 2 and Formula 3. Nothing happens. Almost like IndyCar. It's a train of cars.
This was there. There wasn't much side-by-side, dive bombs, all that sort of stuff. One of the only dive bombs we saw towards the end of the race was actually on the cool-down lap when Yuki Tsunoda decided to send...
That I must see. Like, did Yuki Tsunoda actually do that to Ricciardo? Like, why? And after all the comments he did. Oh my god, what did he say? He's slower or something. Man, that's what's funny. That time.
Been on my mind quite for some time.
So much that time.
All these feelings keep making me smile.
Trygg Hansa. Trygghet för livet.
I don't think so.
On Daniel Ricciardo and lock up when the race had finished. At Ronak_mystery, Matt, before the race start, 5 laps in.
Let's see, what could be a funny meme? I mean, of course, the Tsunoda and Ricciardo talking could be funny. Charles Leclerc brakes problem in every corner. That's funny. Or, not funny that it happened, but... Or... No, well, it's funny it's happened. Oh, the hot car. Alex Albon drive a hot car. Almost like Hot Wheels. Who knows? What more funny? Oh, the copium. That the drivers or the cars, they're so close. So I mean, I just, what's it? 0.2 seconds behind, and then you see the race. Yeah, surely.
You can do the math with what that
Yeah, so
picture
close.
means. I was so excited. I cannot tell you. The delusion levels in my head were through the roof.
Yeah, people have this Copian. They have had this 2 years. It's third year with Mercedes.
I was thinking Max ain't going to win. Charles Leclerc's somehow going to win today's
Nah,
race.
that's good. Yeah,
We're
really
going to hear Charles
good, yeah.
Leclerc
Second
leads
place,
the world.
surely.
I had so many scenarios in my head. But after 5 laps and Max was gone, I was like, oh boy. And I love how Crofty at the end of the race, by the way, said, oh, you know, it may have not... He said something along the lines of, you know, it wasn't the greatest of races, but hey, it's the longest season ever. And I'm there like, is that a positive?
For
At
Max,
Delta
that's
Bravo
probably-
Whisk, I hope you're hungry. A close qualifying.
Let's see. Hope you're hungry. Close the qualifying and unclear fastest car for nothing. Max wins 26 and Red Bull 1-2. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here we have the meme. A close qualifying and an unclear fastest car. Exactly what I was talking about.
Unclear fastest car. For nothing. Yeah. 22 seconds and a Red Bull 1-2.
So much cool.
Lando gave me a little bit of hope again because I'm clinging on to anything that might give us some good news for an actual fight at the front. Was that Lando reckoned that this was the...
I mean, my thoughts on the fight will be just Leclerc can maybe win 3 races and Norris maybe 1 race. That will be the biggest fight between them. The rest will probably just be Max wins. So
the fastest Red Bull are going to get in terms of a track suiting them. We'll wait and see for that one, but Lando saying that gave me a smidgen, just a little 1% of hope for Saudi Arabia and onwards. Charles Leclerc.
oh, there we have it.
So, of course, a lot of you know my allegiance is to a certain driver, Charles Leclerc. And again, I was very excited for his race because I thought maybe, just maybe, he could challenge Max and we get a great fight like 2022. But did we? No. At Charles Dwenzy, or Charles Dwenzy, actually, probably. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the Ferrari SF24. The first race of the season.
Here we have actually a funny meme. Jacques Leclerc is driving his Ferrari.
Charles Leclerc has a car that is not functioning properly. At least he finished the race and a nice little P4, 12 points on the board. Better than last year, I guess. But I wasn't really expecting, and I probably should have, to have problems in the first race. A lot of people saying, Charles washed. Oh, they fired the wrong driver. Blah, 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 blah. I'm taking what Charles Leclerc said with his brakes as gospel because I am, you know, delusionally.
If he didn't have this brake problem, he will easily be. What do you say? Sainz would easily be behind him. So.
Intertwined.
That's
a weird word to use, but you know what I mean. With my favourite driver. So, yeah, struggles and not ideal. At Ahmed_Backbar. The Ferrari bad luck is contagious. Future Ferrari teammates, one had a battery problem, the other had an imbalance problem. Yeah. Hamilton just getting ready for what will come from 2025 onwards. Still very excited by the idea, so I'm not going to meme it too hard. I think it could be awesome. They just need to secure Adrian Newey. Like, get on the phone, Ferrari. You might not have many euros, pounds left in the bank, but if you can secure Adrian Newey, it's time for 10 years of winning, just constantly. So please. At Jobson Luke 7, Leclerc's tyres after all his lockups. It was almost every lap. You could have done a drinking game with Charles Leclerc and the amount of lockups he did. Turn 10 just kept going off, and it was quite clear that something was up. You know, a lot of people, some people, as I say, oh, it's just Leclerc making mistakes. No, Ferrari even confirmed it over the radio, and I don't think they're just trying to save his blushes or anything like that. There was an imbalance, I think, with the temperatures between the front left and the front right, and they said they'd talk about it later, so we didn't get any more information as of right now. At El Rushi, Charles realising he's driving the same car as last year. They said to us the drivability is better. And to be fair, Carlos Sainz cooked. Absolutely awesome this weekend and in the race. Some of the moves he pulled off, especially on Charles, were great. They were really good.
I mean, Charles Leclerc succeeded to be P4, so...
At the same time, yes, the realisation that the drivability, the better in the race stuff that they've been saying before the start of the season gave me some hope, and it did not come to fruition, did it? Not yet, anyway. I still believe. Maybe. At Rafael Silcunha. Poor man's front tyres are crying at this point.
Ferrari Charles complaining about constant front locking. We are checking. I mean, should they not check?
Really glad to see that Ferrari's team radios of "we are checking," "let me check," all these kind of things of "I don't basically have an answer for you right now."
I mean, it could just be his way of letting know, oh, I will look it up. So it could just be how he, instead of saying they're checking, the other maybe is just quiet and just look it up. And he maybe is that a person that he want to confirm that he will be checking it. So
what answers do they have ready? That's what I need to know. Like, what can Xavi...
Well, the question just got asked. They will not have anything prepared.
Actually answer from Charles Leclerc's questions immediately. I can't remember one. It's always "we are checking." It's a Formula 1 race. We can't just sit around here. Come on. At Starrat TV. Not the battle we were hoping for, to be honest. Yeah, Leclerc versus the hard tyre.
I mean, it should be the car. But
and I'm pretty sure... I mean, to be fair, it was the soft tyre as well, wasn't it? It was just Leclerc versus tyres. And he certainly lost today.
The car.
Sainz, the chef. So I felt like there definitely was a deserving segment for Carlos Sainz this week. The driver of the day, because he was brilliant. And there was a lot to actually be memed about his race. At Wendell Sapio, Sainz, when the hard tyres will be faster than the softs. Engineer, again, they didn't really know. And then they came back to him and said it should be the crossover this lap. And then that didn't ever happen, really, did it? And Carlos, I don't think, really caught up whatsoever since asking that question. So the crossover was more of a hopeful guess from Ferrari, wasn't it? It was a, we think it might be around here, but, you know, don't take our word for it. At Grant S. Rivers, Sainz right now be like, he was chefing. He was absolutely in the kitchen with the right ingredients today, and definitely showing that he is still a driver. And we've been saying this, me and Tommy on the podcast have been constantly saying he is a driver performing. He is. He's a very good driver. And he deserves a decent seat, but the problem is there aren't that many going. Mercedes obviously being one of them. Plenty of talk, obviously, of where he might go. But he's definitely not done himself any harm by how he's performed in the first race of the season this weekend. At L_Rushy, Carlos is really making them feel guilty for replacing him next year. I'm not...
no.
I don't think Carlos is probably like that, to be going, well, you see that Ferrari? You could have had that. Because I'm sure he has a lot of respect for the fact that he's being replaced by Lewis Hamilton. It's not like he's being replaced by a young rookie in Formula 2 at the moment or anything like that. He's being replaced by Lewis Hamilton. So, you know, I'm sure there's a little like, oh, yeah, you like that one? But I'm sure he's just enjoying himself this year. There's a lot of love for Ferrari he's clearly got. And I hope he has a great season. I genuinely do. At Laub, Sainz after getting fired, and I took that personally. I don't know what it... It is around contracts and some drivers just going absolutely just off the rails in terms of performance and just delivering. And Bottas, I think of one, as soon as that Mercedes contract was done, he was like, I am now the GOAT. And Sainz may well have that whole season, because usually it's only a few races before the end of the season or whatever that it gets announced. He's got the whole season to just absolutely send it and see what happens. At Cell_Stone, I can't cope with this. Yes, Charles and Carlos racing each other obviously makes me nervous, but their racing is brilliant. It is brilliant to watch, especially when you know afterwards they haven't crashed, so you can then appreciate it without getting far too anxious and nervous that they are going to come together.
Yeah.
But the amount of times they've had such close wheel-to-wheel combat and not come together is actually impressive. So I'm sure at some point, but we have been saying this for a while, it will spill over. Maybe it won't. They're just two brilliant wheel-to-wheel racers, and
they're
Sainz
really
obviously
lucky.
came out on top this
They
time.
could just beat it.
Yeah, I like it. Afterwards, Yuki loses it.
Yeah.
Right, a small little segment for Yuki Tsunoda. I touched upon it slightly earlier, where you may not have seen the clip, but for some reason Tsunoda decided to dive bomb Daniel Ricciardo on the cool-down lap, clearly showing his frustration for the team making the decision to swap the drivers, and I'm not sure what Daniel really had to do or what part he played apart from literally just racing and following orders. Either or, at F1 Friends 2023. Tsunoda, Ricciardo. Yes, Tsunoda was not happy at all, was he? Weird that, I guess it's the first race of the year and all drivers have a lot of pride, but it was for P12, I think it was, where they were fighting for P12 with K-Mag ahead.
No points.
And look, he wasn't getting through. He'd been stuck there for a few laps, and you just swap the cars and see if Danny Rick can have a go on the softs. And if not, then maybe you then swap it back. But there was no points. It never ended up being points. So it felt a little bit over the top for Yuki, but we know that he can get rather angry in the cockpit. Another one at soft left tyre. Yuki changing positions. This is the worst press swap. Oh, he was really triggered by it. And I wonder what he'd have to say about that little cool-down shenanigans. I'm sure the team will have a word with him as well. Maybe it's suggesting slightly unharmonious things going on in that team. I don't know, but it just felt like it was an over-the-top reaction for what actually went down. At Badger Sprite, driver swap. Of course, after I overtake K-Mag. After I overtake K-Mag, right? Yeah, I mean, it was close. It was close to K-Mag, but he had a few laps. So I can understand the team just giving it a go, because you never know what will happen out ahead, and they felt like Danny Rick was slightly quicker. Very reasonable decision from RB. Yuki like, nah, mate, not happy at all. Honourable mentions. Okay, we're into honourable mentions now, and the first one is from SE68, Hamilton's car. Had his seat breaking, didn't he? It was just a weird weekend for Hamilton. I genuinely thought he would do quite well, especially with the bait that Mercedes gave us in free practice 2 of where they might have been in a dreamland. But yeah, he had some problems with the car, and yeah, it just was not a good weekend. But it was a weird, like, relaxed sort of aura that he was giving off this weekend, as if he was it's almost like he's handed in his notice and he's okay with just going along with this season and taking the rough with the smooth. And I don't think he's getting too stressed about it, because he knows, right, well, this car isn't a championship winning car out the blocks. I'm going to Ferrari next year, which will be fun. At Rhino_Peringo, Bottas, one of the longest pit stops. Yes, Valtteri loves a long pit stop. I think it was a 52-second pit stop where the front left just decided to not go on properly. And they were running around, and there was a bit of smoke coming out the brake, and eventually he got out and was still ahead of Logan Sargent, who of course had that problem with the steering wheel. But yeah, not the race that Valtteri would have wanted. At Fel Shazog 14, F1 drivers today. I fear no man. Turn 10 was a difficult one, and George Russell was saying before the start of the race that the wind direction had changed 90 degrees, which meant that some corners were going to be more difficult, and one of them, he said, was turn 10. And when you have a brake imbalance as well, probably makes it even more difficult. So, yeah, but a lot of drivers, not just Charles Leclerc, struggled at a lot of places. I think turn 8 as well, there was a few, but turn 10 was the big one. It's a difficult enough corner as it is, let alone with wind changes. And I think it was the only time the wind direction was that way through. When you look at testing, all of practice, all of qualifying, all of that was different to what today was.
Do I have this on?
At Anjan_PN, trackside photo of the A524. Oh, Alpine. First of all, there's too much pink on that. Far too much colour to call that an Alpine.
Too much pink.
But yes, what a weekend to forget for Alpine. They were right at the back. Again, without Bottas and Sargent's problems, I think they would have finished second last and last. Oh, Drive to Survive is they're going to be knocking on the door. Can we record another episode, please? Because it was bad enough when you were finishing 5th or 6th. Now you're last.
Oh no. And this is usually the worst tweet. Thomas Tasty is like, it's the worst. It's like, it's the lamest ever. And I don't understand. What are they trying to do? Is this the most funniest mean tweet, or is it just... I mean, it's not tasty. It has never been tasty.
Right,
So
it is now
lame.
time for the best part of any weekend.
No, it's
Tommy's
the worst
Tasty
part.
Tweet, sponsored by EA and F124. Very exciting, Tommy, that the winner will get a copy of F124. Obviously, not
Oh,
right
wait,
now because
I
the game's
know
not
how
out.
to
But when the
fix
game
this.
gets out, gets released out, gets put out, gets
This was
you know
wrong.
done out, then they'll get a game, won't they?
They will. As soon as it's there, boom, you've got it.
So, who has won Tommy's Tasty Tweet for the Bahrain Grand Prix? Hit me.
Do I have
The
it
winner
here?
is Mr. Idiot.
Okay, let's see. For the Christmas, I want a dragon. Be realistic. I want a Charles Leclerc to win the Bahrain GP. Okay. Yeah, super funny.
But they're not an idiot because they've done a brilliant meme of you wanting what you want for Christmas, which was a Charles Leclerc win in Bahrain, and it didn't happen.
And what colour dragon would I want instead? Oh, perfect. Well, can I at least get the dragon? You know what I mean? I need the dragon as well. But
Oh my god, where do
Hey,
I
ho.
have...
delusion levels were high. Thank you, Tommy, for selecting a Charles Leclerc meme. I'm not surprised. And yeah, if you
Don't
want to
say
get
if I
involved
have
next
it
time,
selected.
hashtag P1. Bye, Tommy.
Bye.
Right, that is it. Thank you so much for
Definitely,
tuning in to the
this tag
first episode of the funniest
somewhere
tweets
here.
of the Bahrain Grand Prix. I'm sorry on the behalf of Formula One that it was a race that was very, very mediocre. We needed a banger. We didn't get it. Bahrain's a good track as well. We've been let down. But hey, next weekend we go again because we're all delusional. And yeah, big thanks to EA and F124
Maybe British fans are.
for sponsoring Tommy's Tasty Tweet. And if you want to get involved next time, use the hashtag P1 on Twitter and get your memes in. Be creative, make some stuff. And also, P1 live show tickets. There'll be a link in the description if you want to come and see me and Tommy live in either London, Bath or Cambridge in the middle of April. Would love to see you there. It's a very interactive show. It's not just a podcast. And we'd love to see you there. So yeah, take care, everybody. Lots of love. Bye.
Quiet. Go away, ad. God damn it. Go away with that. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, we've done that. We've done that. Some funny memes P1 did, but let's see if the race have something fun to tell about. Why? Okay, that problem is gone now. Now we can actually look for where do I have the name tag? Why drivers looked so bad in F1 2024 opener? Oh well, I would say people had so much copium that they thought it was close and then it wasn't. That's why.
For all the fighting talk from Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren and Aston Martin over the winter, Red Bull and Max Verstappen still ground them into dust in the first race of 2024. We expected Red Bull and Verstappen in particular to be very strong in Bahrain, and they were, but they were also made to look even better by just how bad their rivals were, and in this video we're going to explain why. Ferrari was expected to be Red Bull's closest challenger in Bahrain, and that proved to be the case. Pre-race, team principal Fred Vasseur even talked up the chances of more teams putting Red Bull under pressure in 2024, forcing them to compromise on strategy and setup because Red Bull wouldn't have the same comfort zone they enjoyed in 2023. But the Bahrain Grand Prix played out completely within Verstappen's comfort zone. So what went wrong for Ferrari?
God damn it. This tree is still here. Why could this happen to me? All three wolves is still here. God damn it. And some of the roof is gone also. Anything more damage? Man, the sad music. Oh, should it really be sad music? Well, the tree is gone, so let's... So that will be a future thing to plant it, like plant all this tree. They also went away because of the lightning stuff. No. Oh, chicken.
Ferrari. Well, the biggest problem was that the team's faster driver, Charles Leclerc, endured a nightmare race, blighted by persistent brake locking caused by one front brake running at a much higher temperature than the other. Leclerc visibly lost confidence in his car as it veered to the right in the heavy braking zones. He said this severely compromised his pace for the first 15 to 20 laps before it stabilised. This meant we never got to see the two fastest drivers of the weekend go head to head in the race. Leclerc set the fastest...
What do you mean?
Lap of the whole event in Q2, so if anyone was likely to take the fight to Verstappen here, it was Leclerc. The Ferrari SF24 was stronger than Red Bull in the more downforce dependent middle sector and slightly better in the final sector. Had Leclerc strung together his three best sectors, he'd have beaten Verstappen to pole by 0.68 seconds. But it's not unusual for Ferrari to be a threat in qualifying. Its big focus has been on improving race pace, and the Bahrain Grand Prix was meant to be the first test of whether that improvement really had come. Both drivers talked up the prospect, with the improved aerodynamic stability and reduced wind sensitivity, meaning the tyres should be less stressed. Vasseur had also promised Ferrari was on another planet in terms of tyre degradation after testing, and insisted Ferrari was closer to Red Bull here than it was in 2023. However, Carlos Sainz found the tyre degradation worse than he would have liked in FP2, so there were still question marks hanging over Ferrari heading into the race. And unfortunately, on account of Leclerc's problems and Sainz spending the first part of the race bottled up behind slower cars, we didn't get to see Ferrari's race pace claims properly stress tested. Leclerc said the brake issue made his race impossible, and that without it, he was convinced he would have beaten Perez to second and got much closer to Verstappen than anyone else managed. Sainz felt he lost too much time stuck behind Leclerc. Once into clean air, Sainz did at least keep Perez honest in the battle for second, but A, that's Perez, not Verstappen, and B, Sainz still averaged 0.3 per lap slower than Verstappen for the last 46 laps of this race. Nevertheless, Sainz's performance suggests Ferrari definitely was closer to Red Bull on race pace in Bahrain than it was 12 months ago. Vasseur said Ferrari had closed the gap by 50%, but we probably won't really know how much progress Ferrari has made until we get a straight fight at the front between Leclerc and Verstappen. Despite enjoying its best pre-season of Formula One's current ground effect era and George Russell splitting the Ferraris in qualifying, Mercedes endured a difficult first race. Russell ran into engine cooling problems that Mercedes admitted after the race it didn't fully understand, while Lewis Hamilton battled battery problems for the first 10 laps and then overheating brakes and a loose seat. Russell and Hamilton were both told to lift and coast to control skyrocketing temperatures. Team boss Toto Wolff indicated this cost Mercedes 5 to 6 tenths of a second in lap time. A similar problem afflicted Mercedes customer Williams, but not McLaren or Aston Martin, which Wolff called unexpected. Without that, Russell would likely have been in the podium battle with the Ferraris and Perez, rather than clinging on for fifth against Lando Norris's McLaren. But it's not all doom and gloom for Mercedes, even after such a tough race.
What do you mean? Is the Mercedes gone, you mean?
Third in qualifying, 0.3 off pole, was a pleasant surprise to the team after testing, where it hadn't been confident in the single lap potential of the W15. But even more crucial than the outright pace of this car is that Mercedes has conclusively proved its main problem from last year has been solved. That's the rear end instability that sapped the confidence of both drivers. Russell described this problem as cured. Even Hamilton, who had a messy qualifying and was only 9th fastest, made positive noises about the different feeling of the car underneath him now compared to last year. Although that significant 2023 problem is apparently fixed, primarily thanks to a combination of changes to the suspension and also the improved rear aerodynamics, Mercedes was giving away significant time in the more downforce-dependent middle sector in Bahrain, where Russell was 3.5 tenths slower than Sector 2 pace setter Leclerc. That suggests that while the stability is improved, there could still be a downforce deficit for Mercedes to work on over the coming races. Judged against the back end of last season and the fighting talk of closing the gap to Red Bull further, it was disappointing to see McLaren qualify on the 4th row and kept at arm's length by Ferrari.
I mean, can they really be better than the 4th row? I mean, Norris could maybe squeeze in between Russell and Sainz. Piastri could maybe have been above between Perez and Alonso. But I mean, better than Hamilton. Could that really be so bad?
And even
Oh wait, did I see it wrong? Oh yeah, there. Was it they both above Hamilton? Yeah, they must be. Hulkenberg, Hamilton 9th. So it's better than Mercedes.
McLaren qualify on the 4th row and kept at arm's length by Ferrari and even Russell's compromised Mercedes, especially as it became clear that the McLaren has not been improved as much as needed in its core underlying weaknesses. That said, McLaren's qualifying performance compared to last year's was transformative in a very good way. It was the biggest year-on-year improver at around 1.8 seconds, comparing its fastest Q2 time in 2023 to the lap Lando Norris did to qualify 7th this year. And had Norris produced a clean final run in Q3, he could have been on the first 2 rows of the grid. Norris was actually quicker than Verstappen across sectors 2 and 3 and only qualified 4 tenths off pole, roughly where McLaren was in qualifying in the 2023 season finale in Abu Dhabi. So McLaren was still there or thereabouts over a single lap, even with a less than ideal end to qualifying at a track that exposes where it still needs to make gains with its car. That's all important context to consider. Norris even swung from a fairly pessimistic outlook to being genuinely buoyed by the fact McLaren was this close when it can still improve so much in areas it remains weak. But his teammate Oscar Piastri's claim after qualifying that Red Bull didn't look quite as ominous as McLaren feared was proven emphatically wrong. McLaren was no threat in the race to the lead Mercedes and Ferraris, let alone looking like a team in a position to challenge Red Bull. But Norris said this was not far off where McLaren expected to be at this track, while team principal Andrea Stella stressed the reference for McLaren right now is Ferrari, Mercedes and Perez, not Verstappen's Red Bull. Mid-corner rotation is still difficult with this car, which compromises corner entry and exit, at slow speed in particular. Stella admits that in this area, McLaren is still not where it wants to be. That is going to require further aerodynamic and mechanical upgrades to sort, and it means McLaren must battle its lingering weaknesses for longer. Although the silver lining is that upcoming tracks with faster corners like Jeddah, Melbourne and especially Suzuka should play more to the car's inherent strengths. Last year's second best team in the season opener was only 1 place worse off in qualifying this time around, but it had a much worse Grand Prix and was nowhere near close to being a podium contender. While realistically it was not expecting a repeat of 2023's podium finish before the weekend, Aston Martin obviously hoped for a much better result than the last 2 places in the top 10. Fernando Alonso was massively surprised to qualify 6th with what he called an exceptional lap, but he never looked like consolidating that position in the race, let alone building on it, and said afterwards that finishing 9th and 10th was exactly in line with the team's pre-race simulations. He slipped back through the opening stint and spent much of the race closer to the midfield pack than the cars fighting to be best of the rest. The only remotely positive thing is that the team is adamant the new car does offer a better development platform than the one it struggled to upgrade consistently in 2023. And in fact, Alonso suggested this better platform has required deliberate sacrifices in terms of some of the car characteristics that made the Aston so potent at the start of last season. Alonso hinted at that making for a slow start to 2024 for Aston, especially after some inconclusive feelings from testing, but with the expectation of better performance in the development race that will eventually bring Aston properly into the fight. After qualifying, Alonso thought his team was starting more brightly than that, but it looks like Aston Martin might need these car improvements quite rapidly to avoid more races spent scrapping for minor points finishes.
I mean, that's much better than Alpine can succeed to do. Well, then we go with that, and then we do this. Yeah, what can I say about that? I mean, I would say Ferrari and McLaren didn't have maybe the start they wanted, but they will probably succeed with race wins and stuff. So it just take their time. Mercedes will not be a winner, and Aston Martin will not be a winner. Oh, there's now time for the most funny thing ever. Peter Windsor, and I really hope he will have his usually talking points about Lewis Hamilton, because man, his race must be beautiful.
I think we can begin this video in two ways. We can say, was that Groundhog Day? Is this just a replay of what we saw in 2023? Or we could say, it's 2024, but probably, even with the RB19, Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez probably would still have finished 1-2 in the Bahrain Grand Prix. Just a stunning performance, not only by the two drivers, but also, of course, by the team as a whole, the team on the ground, and of course the design team led by Adrian Newey. They didn't need to do a radical update on the RB19, but they've gone pretty original on the 20. They've repackaged a lot of the back of the car to accentuate the effect of those all-important channels. And the car is just blisteringly quick. Well, not even blisters, certainly no blisters on the car. Max saying afterwards he felt completely at one in the car. And when he's saying something like that, he's touching the outer edges of the sheer pleasure of driving a Grand Prix car on the absolute limit. Not that he was on the limit at all, really. Probably was in lap 1, by which time he had a margin of 1 second at the end of the first lap. And as I say, he was just stunning, as I said yesterday, through the first sector, taking advantage of that top speed of the Red Bull on that back straight up to the top of the hill there. And then when he put on his final set of soft tyres to set fastest lap as well, that was one lap where he gave it everything. But after that, it was just cruise control for Max Verstappen. Cruise control for Max, of course, being probably a second a lap quicker than cruise control to everybody else, not because he pushes the car harder, but because he's so good at being economical with everything he does with his driving and still being extremely quick. And that's what we saw throughout the race. Even when he was backing off, he was still 3-4 tenths quicker than Sergio Perez, let alone the opposition. Just a fabulous drive. Let's just talk about that choice for running the soft tyre at the end. I think that again accentuates how good the RB20 is. No compunction about that, putting both cars on the soft just to give them that extra grip in the end should they need it. Of course, it was going to help Max to get his fastest lap anyway. Not that he needed that help. And nobody else went that route. Yeah, one or two cars right at the back, but not in an effective way. For Red Bull to choose that at the front of the race when you've got Ferrari, McLaren, Aston Martin, everybody else running hard tyre, Fernando Alonso trying to go as long as he could with the middle stint, so he got fresher hard tyres at the end, kind of paid off a little bit, but he wasn't really on the pace today.
Yep,
there's Red Bull running the soft tyres in that last stint, and I think that just says everything about not only about the confidence of the team and the way they're running the team, but also about the way they can manage the tyres. When you've got a car with that big a sweet spot, and when it's so comfortable to drive and so predictable to drive, as Max says, when you're so much at one with the car, you can do things like that. You can run the soft tyre,
and how didn't Hamilton have it?
Is still on the hard. And don't forget, of course, this also reflects the amount of homework that Red Bull have been doing since the start of the test, not even since Thursday untimed practice. Since the start of the test, they've been going through all the permutations of what this car can do. They have so much knowledge of the car, based on everything they've done in 2024, but also based on the building blocks, of course, from the RB19. I'd like to go on and on about it, but it's at risk of, I suppose, most Formula One fans saying, "Oh, another season of Red Bull domination." I'm not saying this is my job to do this, but this is what I feel from my heart, which is when you're seeing a team this good doing the job that well, it's a pleasure to watch it. And I think the TV coverage today was pretty
Especially
good.
when you know who doesn't have it.
All-pervading power of Red Bull, and it was pretty good at showing how well Max was driving too, even on that opening lap, just cruising around third gear out of turn 10. Just wonderful to watch. Everybody else going back to second. Not everybody. Not George Russell, got to say. Really good drive by George. Get onto that in a second. But Max just fingertip perfect in everything he was doing. And all of that magnified by the prolifically quick top speed of the RB20 as well, compared with everybody else. I mean, I thought it was quite amusing, sad stroke amusing, that Mercedes and McLaren had a sort of decent battle towards the end of the race, by which time all the various different strategies had come together, and we had George leading Lando, leading Lewis, leading Oscar doing quite a good job finally getting his tyres to be managed through to the end. But those four cars, unbelievably slow in a straight line, DRSing off one another, but just effectively in another race compared with Red Bull's top speeds, and to some extent
I mean, I would say that's sad for McLaren, but man, it's beautiful. The Mercedes is there also.
Ferrari were doing as well. So Ferrari well clear of that Mercedes, McLaren, Aston Martin group, Aston Martin behind those two. And it was Carlos Sainz that did the better of the two jobs on race evening. Carlos Sainz, the driver who's lost his Ferrari drive for 2025, there was a moment, which is of course the beginning of this year, for Carlos to put his stake in the ground and say, that was a big mistake by Ferrari, I'm going to get a drive somewhere else. It began in Bahrain, a beautiful drive by Carlos Sainz, really, really polished is I think the correct word, in contrast to Charles Leclerc, who was all over the place virtually from the start of the race. Made a pretty good start and was there pushing as hard as he could in the early laps, but then made a catastrophic mistake at turn 10, ran wide, locked up, flat spotted the tyres. George Russell got through, and after that it was sort of playing catch up for Charles Leclerc on both sets of tyres, from the soft and then to the first set of hard tyres, flat spotting them quite early on in the runs and just running out of brakes, looking terrible through 10. Ironically, it was where he actually passed George Russell to get back into fourth place, turn 10, on his last set. He was actually quite good on his last set, no flat spots, and he got the most from it. It's about as quick as his teammate Carlos Sainz, but a very, very messy bunch of two stints before that from Charles Leclerc. Very uncharacteristic for Charles to have done that, but at the end of the day, Ferrari third and fourth, so not a bad result for them, ahead of their nearest opposition and about where we thought they might be. I said that I thought the gap probably is about 50% closed compared with 2023. I think I have to revise that now and say it's probably only 30% closed, maybe even 25% closed since last year. Maybe not any difference at all, actually, in terms of the gap. Interesting that, apropos nothing at all, but quite a lot of David Coulthard doing the questions afterwards is always primed to ask the last question about the next race, to get everybody excited about the next race, which of course is that triple DRS place called Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, not my favourite racetrack. And everybody's saying, oh yeah, should suit our car. If it's going to suit any car, it's going to suit the Red Bull, which is unbelievably quick in the straight line. Unless the other teams, of course, can take off a massive amount of wing, which I suppose they can do because there aren't any real... Well, there are some corners there, but I don't think they're going to lose too much in terms of those high-speed S's through there. And yes, they'll probably be a bit closer in top speed to Red Bull. But at the moment, you've got to say Red Bull have definitely the best package for everything. They can take wing off, they can put wing on, get more downforce, and they can run the soft tyres when everybody else is running the hard. I mean, what more do you need to say? So Ferrari third and fourth, a disappointing day for Charles Leclerc, a great day for Carlos Sainz. And the next group, which was Mercedes versus McLaren, it was George Russell, Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, Oscar Piastri in that order. And that kind of reflected... It was an accurate reflection. I think George was on the limit all day. He did have that big moment when he got passed by Charles in the last stint. That was going into turn 10, as I say, ran wide, but otherwise drove really well. Lewis was cruising around towards the end, realised that he was going as quickly as everybody else and got past Oscar Piastri in a really nice move, actually at turn 1, when Oscar was coming out of the pit lane from his pit stop.
What do you mean move? He did nothing. Piastri did everything.
Lewis had already made his, And they came into turn one alongside one another. Lewis was on the outside, Oscar on the inside. And Lewis really good at reading what was going to happen.
Really good at reading. Or Piastri was bad at reading.
Next, and sure enough, Oscar on the cold tyres ran a little bit wide. Lewis backed off slightly and then just nipped back on the inside.
Yeah,
really
slightly. It was so
Lewis
slightly you didn't even see it.
The other driver.
It might not have happened.
And he was there sort of kind of dancing with the music, but it wasn't really a great fun day for Lewis Hamilton. He was just at the back. A bit of a sort of added extra to the race, but nothing spectacular, which...
Why not?
I don't know.
Wait, so he could do that perfectly, nothing problem and everything. But the rest of the race, it was too bad. That's weird.
Is that what we're going to have from Lewis Hamilton all year? I very much doubt it, Lewis being Lewis. But from
Lewis being Lewis, where is so bad this?
From a Thursday where he was quickest on light fuel and very good on fuel runs, it was, and from a post-qualifying quote yesterday saying, oh, my car's much better on fuel load. I've got the car set up for that than I have for a performance single lap run. Well, as I said yesterday, it's all very well to say that, but let's see what happens on race day, race night. And sure enough, it didn't actually make any difference at all. There was George still beating him, even if his car was a little bit more difficult.
Yeah,
to run,
he did do that. He got the question. Oh my god. If he made the car better for the race than in qualifying, and he said yes. And well, the table have turned. It was a bad race car also.
But he still beat him. And so what was that whole business of setting the car up for a fuel run all about? As I kind of said yesterday in a rather cynical way, I think. So yeah, I mean, after Thursday, it's been a disastrous weekend for Lewis Hamilton, that's for sure. After that was the two Aston Martins, Fernando Alonso, Lance Stroll. Fernando not very good with full fuel load, picked up a bit of pace towards the end. He did extend his second stint so that he had a relatively fresh set of hard tyres at the end. I thought they might put him on the soft as well, but Aston Martin felt that was obviously a little bit of a bridge too far. But bearing in mind Red Bull did that, and further down the field, Daniel Ricciardo, Nico Hülkenberg, Pierre Gasly all tried running softs at the end. I was surprised they didn't put Fernando on some soft tyres just to see what they could do there. It was a bit of a conservative call, I think, having kept him out for so long in the middle stint on the hard tyre. But he finished 9th, and Lance Stroll finished 10th. For Aston Martin, and just out of the points, Guanyu Zhou in the Sauber, so that was a better race for them than they certainly had in qualifying. And Kevin Magnussen underlining the performance of the Haas Ferrari this weekend. Nico Hülkenberg, another to be involved. Great shame for him after that P10 in qualifying, but another to be involved in the first lap. And he just played a catch-up race all day, but was pretty quick and pretty good throughout. So they're right there in the midfield at Haas Ferrari. So that was it. Red Bull 1-2, way ahead of the rest. And if Max had had a problem, Sergio Perez would have won that race easily. He did have a little bit of pressure, so Ferrari thought from Carlos towards the end, maybe the soft tyres were going to go off. But every time Carlos found a 10th here, 10th there, Sergio responded, drove really well. So even without Max, it would have been a Red Bull win. Sergio Perez doing a great job there. But Max was there, of course, and it was just a case study on how to do it right. Absolutely fabulous, great result for them. And so we move on to Riyadh, to that triple DRS circuit. Well, they call it a circuit anyway, kind of Formula One venue. I think it's probably the best way to describe it. Anyway, we'll be doing the same 3 videos on that. We'll see what happens when the teams do take a bit of wing off, see how much that affects some of the other cars in terms of their grip level and tyre management situations. We'll see all that next week. I'll be probably doing a live stream also between now and then, so watch out for that. Details will be put out as soon as we can organise that. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Thanks to Jetcraft, thanks to Pitbox.io. See you all soon. Stay safe.
And here we have... Yeah, we have something, but man, the drag out of the ending. Okay, now we should be done. And then it's 26 seconds more. It's still going. Why? Why you do this?
honestly, you need...
Oh shit, add time. Oh shit. Then we do that. Then we can go from it, and then we can scam add question mark. Can be, yeah, we are done with that. And then we have, oh my god, and scam add for 5 minutes and 24 seconds. Holy shit. Let's make them pay for it. But here we have some fun stuff, maybe. Red Bull dominated Bahrain GP news coverage. And this person, you could see him won the what's it called? When Max Perez and Sainz get their podium prizes, what's it called? You can see him taking photos.
G'day from the Bahrain International Circuit on a day that Red Bull dominated all of the media coverage.
Wait, did they?
You have to take your hat off to Max Verstappen. He started the season in fine form with a Grand Slam in the first race of the year. That's never happened before, and a Grand Slam is starting from pole position, leading every lap and winning. And while that was a big story...
he did. Nice. But he did bad practice. They would maybe done it even better if he was P1 on all the practice also.
Wasn't the biggest story. The biggest story, according to all the people in this media centre, and there are many of them, was Jerry Horner arriving at the track with her husband. Christian walked in with her hand in hand, but Christian was already at the track, and then he was walking in through the swipe gates with her. What happened? I can tell you, a German reporter friend of mine saw Christian sneak out a back entrance to the paddock, which is not normally covered with swipe gates, got into the car with Jerry, went round the corner, maybe 300 metres, and walked in through the swipe gates. Now, no doubt that was a very powerful statement for the pair to say things are as normal, and perhaps the general...
I mean, from my opinion, it maybe try to look like it's normal, but I felt like that looks so weird. Why do they do that? Did she got forced to go to this race just because of this so-called statement? Because yeah, so weird.
The public shouldn't worry. You'll make your decision on it. Probably about an hour after arriving at the hospitality suite, they dined, and they dined at the very back of the hospitality suite, but out on the deck. There were a number of media out the front photographing. I was one of them. It was a bit tough to get a clean photo of the pair, but certainly when Christian left to take to the grid, he stopped and gave his wife a kiss on the way out. Once again, a show of affection to say that things are, well, as normal as can be under some very trying conditions.
Normal.
I think everybody in this media centre wants it sorted out quickly, and I have no doubt Red Bull does, because this has dragged on for way too long. Certainly the PR people were all over this today at Red Bull. They were having meeting after meeting with journalists. We also had the Thai businessman, who is 51% owner of Red Bull, at the track with his wife today. In Parc Fermé, they were right up front, standing next to Jerry and Christian Horner. Of course, Christian and Jerry were pretty happy with the result. It was a runaway win for their boys. 1-2 finish. Celebrity-wise, who do we have? Jeremy Clarkson was on the grid. He was talking to Martin Brundle. If you are British or you get the Sky Sports coverage, you would have known that. They spoke for some time. I also saw Neymar. He was with Red Bull. And interestingly, there was a photo in front of the Red Bull garage where Neymar took centre stage, and at the very last minute someone rushed him in a can of Red Bull. so that the brand got their value out of that photo shoot. He was surrounded by many people in the paddock and had a couple of security guards helping him get around, because it's not easy. Now let's hark back to Parc Ferme last night. George Russell was in there, and when he took his helmet off and his balaclava, he had this headband on. I caught up with his girlfriend Carmen today and said, what's that about? And she said, well, back in Qatar last year it was so darn hot that he was getting sweat beads in his eyes, so he arranged for one of these. He originally tried something else. I think she said a bun, but that wasn't fireproof, and that is important. This is fireproof, and it's made by Puma. It stops the sweat getting in George's eyes. Alpine reserve driver and fellow Australian Jack Doohan was in the paddock today, running backwards, something you don't often see.
Wait, what?
Oh, yesterday afternoon in the paddock, I came across Miles Chamley-Watson, who is known as the Fencer on Instagram, and he is not a fence erector. He is a fencer, as in stabbing people on a.
Yeah, you are. Why do you want to spawn here for? Fiddling.
Stage connected to a cable in a white suit. And I was talking to him, and he's, by the way, a very snappy dresser, a good friend of Lewis Hamilton's, comes as Lewis's guest. And I said to him, I have this amazing photo that inspires me. It's a multi-exposure. And he asked about it, and I said, well, it's two fences coming together. And I found the picture, and he said, that's me in that photo. I said, yeah, on the right. Yeah, definitely me. And trust me, that is one of my favourite photos. I also remarked to him about his fashion, because he always looks $1 million. And he said, you know what, we should style you. And I said, yes, let's do that. It'd be great for a video. Miles Chamley-Watson styles me. Someone who has always at F1 dressed for comfort. Will it happen?
No.
I hope so. Did you know that today was the coldest ever Bahrain Grand Prix? Yes, I don't know what the temperature got down to, but everyone here agrees that it was unseasonably cold. And if I go back to 2017, my first race here on the Thursday, it was 44 degrees and it was unbearable. In fact, you couldn't even pick up your cameras. It was that hot. And for that very reason, around the track are these scattered boxes. Nothing to look at, but it's fitted with an air conditioner, and you go in there on hot days to get some respite. Now, let's talk podium. Do they use champagne? No. This is a country that doesn't allow promotion of alcohol, although you can buy it here, and it certainly is available in the hospitality suites, and not just beer and wine. It's a full range of spirits in most of them. Anyway, getting back to the podium, it's not champagne, it is rosewater. It has no branding on it. And what they've done from last year's version of the fizzy, sweet, sticky substance is fizzed it up, because last year it didn't froth. It was, well, probably a fizzer, and it needed to be more fizzy. And if you're wondering how that rosewater sprayed, well, it wasn't much better than last time, I'd suggest.
Oh,
And
shit,
certainly
I didn't
nothing like
watch that.
champagne or sparkling wine. Let's talk start of year photo, and this was the shot. Spacing of the drivers was, I thought, not quite right. But anyway, that's what we have to work.
What the What you doing, Perez? You ruined the shot.
But anyway, that's what we have to work with. Lewis Hamilton went.
Fuck, is there one more slime? Or was it just a zombie that walked?
Around to all the drivers prior to the shoot and fist bumped them all. Now, what does it cost to come to this race? Well, it depends obviously on where you come from and where your seats are, but Alexandra Bruckner told me this is what she paid.
We're from Boston in the United States. We spent about $2,000 on flights to get here, about $1,000 on accommodation. We are in the Bayonne Grandstand, spent about $700 on tickets, so all told about $3,000 to get here, and it has been completely worth it.
Now, if you've watched my video about crazy things I did in Bahrain, you might have seen me out there four-wheel driving on that track near turn 13. Well, I can tell you that Ibrahim, my driver, had a rather interesting story about a very influential F1 guest that he had in his car.
In 2007, if I'm not mistaken, I took some of the Formula One drivers up here on the off-road, and one of them is Michael Schumacher. He's the only one who stops me right in the middle of the course. He's like, "Can I drive?" I'm like, "Of course, I'll be honored." Yeah, and he enjoyed the drive. I just asked him actually a question, and he's like, "This is just to take some stress off."
Oh, and if you missed Ted's notebook, have a look at this bit.
We're all waiting here for the photo, but I don't think it's going to be done anytime soon. Mark, Kim, do we know when the photo is going to be?
Well, we live in hope that it's going to be soon.
We live in hope. It could be here, it could be in the hospitality, but help yourself to a Red Bull. No thanks.
And one of my final picks of the night was this glorious shot of Kevin Magnussen with one of his daughters. Having said all of those words, I'm now going to pack up my stuff and leave. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do so.
No.
And for all of my digital stuff, have a look here. Thanks for watching, and stay passionate. Okay. What are we doing here? Oh. He's gonna put the pictures backwards so it looks like he's running backwards.
Yep, so it was just running, eller having going backwards. Okay, but well, that's yeah, last clip. Man, Christian Horner, Amanda is looked so fake, so forced and fake. Like, why? Come on, is it done? The ad is done. See, there's nothing more interesting to watch. Nope. And I have no ideas what more to do here, so... Or I know what to do. Keep mining it out, and how fun is that? I don't believe it's so much more fun. So we will end the stream here. And the thing I've done that will be happening here. All this stone. Oh shit. There. One more push was needed. Oh, now I know what to do. Fixing the roof. But there will be when Saudi Arabia practice start, or after it have, after that practice have been. So we say this is the end, and then I can maybe sleep.